One of the downsides to having a lot of opinions and a big ass mouth is that there really aren't a lot of spaces to fully express how one feels about things. So, since I don't like following the fold by any means, I decided that I was going to create a weekly audio diary where I get to share my wisdom and my experiences and the lessons I've learned um, throughout the last several years of my life and share them all with you. And maybe even get some opposing opinions in here too. But for now, welcome to The Gospel According to Liz, a weekly audio diary with me, Erin Elizabeth, referencing everything from pop culture, politics, sexuality, relationships, mental health, basically anything and everything. Because my last series, the one with, was my own personal life story. And while it was hugely popular and really helped introduce me to this type of content creation, I wanted to do a series that was a little bit more interactive and a series where I got to pass down some knowledge that I've obtained the last couple of years since I've made a huge lifestyle change. So, to begin, I thought I would introduce myself to those of you who don't already know who I am. So, I am Erin Elizabeth. I am a 31-year-old paralegal from Philadelphia. I have had one other podcast series on this platform, as well as others. That was called The One With. That was my COVID therapy podcast that I started back in 2019 and completed around this time last year after saying goodbye to a part of my life that I no longer wanted to carry into the next chapter. I told everything from my coming out story to my online dating mishaps and my relationship with my ex-wife. The way our marriage worked, the way our friendship worked, and the thing that made it all blow up. Since then, I have started a new career, got a new place to live, reconnected with family and friends, and I'm actively doing so much better mentally that I decided that why not start a new series. I'm in a much better, healthier mind space and don't really want to be known as the toxic, self-sabotaging lesbian who I was in my last series. So I figured a weekly audio diary where I pass on my knowledge, my experiences, my opinions, maybe even invite a friend or two to share their own, would be a lot more mature way to move forward with this new phase in my life. And with that being said, why don't we start with episode 1? This is The Gospel According to Liz, the gospel on when to let go. I suffer with 2 pretty severe mental health disorders, bipolar, both 1 and 2, and borderline personality disorder. For over a year now, I have been in therapy, on medication. I'm doing so much better than I was last year. For those of you who know me personally can attest to that. But a major struggle that I've had over the last year or so with my BPD specifically is abandonment. One of the key signs that a person suffers from borderline personality disorder is a insane fear of abandonment. Usually brought on from childhood, whether it was a parent or a loved one or someone who left or didn't want them or didn't support them. In my case, it was most likely the fact that my father kind of broke my heart before anyone else had the opportunity to. And because of that, I hold on to basically anyone and anything that shows me even the slightest bit of attention. It's been bad enough that I have allowed myself to be in physically and emotionally abusive relationships. I've allowed myself to completely lose myself in people because I don't want them to leave. I've spent thousands of dollars on people because I feel like they won't leave if I take care of them. And it isn't just romantic partners. I do this with friends. I do this with coworkers. I definitely have a process that I go through. However, I've been making much more healthier decisions lately. However, one individual slipped through the cracks. And very recently, I found myself struggling with the concept of being alone again, or the concept of not having this person in my day-to-day anymore. So I should probably go back to the beginning. So in April of last year, I was in a pretty shitty car accident. This car accident resulted in me having to find my own place to live, and resulted in me really hitting rock bottom mentally. However, shortly after that, I found myself communicating online with someone who I met on one of those like friend finder apps or whatever. We had a pretty decent connection right off the rip. Both weren't looking for a relationship. Both wanted solid friendship. And that's what it turned into. We spent every day, all day, from about the end of April to the second or third week of May, talking nonstop all day, every day. It wasn't until around the middle of May that we actually even met in person. This person I thought would be a safe person to become friends with, because although they were gay, they were not my type physically. I had no interest in them romantically. They weren't exactly, my cup of tea. But I am just as unhealthy and toxic with friendships as I am with relationships. And the emotional turmoil that I went through after that car accident made me very susceptible to holding on to anything and anyone that was kind to me. This person helped me out financially. They were an emotional support. They were helpful. They just were a voice of reason. And for months, this person became my best friend, kind of. We talked every day, nonstop. We hung out when we could. We spent all of this time together. And it was the first time that I actually connected with a person and built a solid friendship. Naturally, over time, I started to develop a slight interest romantically, which I didn't necessarily want to, because I knew how that ends for me. And I started doing the overwhelming stuff that I do to keep a person around. I made myself useful, helpful, hoping that if I did things that they weren't used to or that they needed but didn't want to ask for, that they would still want to be friends with me, even if they didn't like me romantically. If I told you guys all of the shit that I did because I was so afraid of this person just disappearing, it's actually kind of ironic and pretty depressing that they ended up doing that anyway. However, over the course of 7.5 months, me and this person built a really solid friendship, or so I thought. And fairly recently, that friendship has dissolved. This person went no contact with me, and I did not respond well. As I stated earlier, yes, I am in therapy, I am medicated, I do what I'm supposed to do, I take care of my mental health. However, we all have relapses in life, whether it's through addiction, whether it's through... I had a BPD relapse and ended up crashing out on Snapchat while drinking a bottle of vodka and crying about the fact that I just lost my best friend. And I didn't understand why they didn't want to talk to me anymore. Fast forward about 3.5 weeks, and here we are. Resolution has happened, but my abandonment trigger turned me into a completely different person. I was so depressed. I was so out of it. I slept for days. I got sent home from work. I wasn't eating. I had no way to really wrap my mind around what was happening. And it wasn't because, oh, I liked this person, I wanted to date this person. I would have did this if it was anybody. If someone becomes a part of my daily routine and then they disappear, I don't know how to handle all the time. I make myself a strategic schedule. Every day, same routine. It's how I cope with the BPD and everything, is to have everything handled. This was not in my rear view. I wasn't planning on having to get used to not talking to this person every morning, not seeing this person on FaceTime at all, no longer being able to see this person in person. I was not prepared for this. So naturally, my natural reaction was to completely lose my mind. And I did some unhealthy things to cope, which I'm not proud of. However, the reason why I'm talking about this today is because I think one of the biggest misconceptions in any form of mental health is the understanding, or the trying to understand, how a person deals with their triggers. Just because a person is on the straight and narrow, they're medicated, they're going to therapy, they're doing their work, that does not mean that they are healed. It is very hard to truly heal a person who has the type of mental health illnesses that I have. You can never fully heal from bipolar. You can live a life on medication and have a very, profitable, happy life. You can be cured from BPD with this correct amount of therapy and medication, but it's one of the more complex mental health disorders. And it's something I'm still learning about every single day. But for me specifically, abandonment is something that I don't handle well at all. Being blocked, being ignored, being removed off of social media, having pictures deleted of me off of social media, realizing that a person truly is done with me is the single most traumatic thing in the world. And to find out that you are being kind of discarded can really hurt, especially if this is a person that you feel like you actively did better with. I can honestly say that this is the first time in my entire life that I built a connection with a person that was not based on controlled substances, partying, and interest in wanting to be sexual with the person. It was literally built on just wanting to be friends and a support system to each other. So to have this type of discardment and to have this type of no contact with the person with no real resolution, it hurts. And it's also a situation where it's also the holidays. I don't handle the holidays well. I also recently just got a new position at work. So on top of, work being a lot and, living on my own and trying to maintain certain things, and then realizing all that I did to try to keep this person around is now impacting me in my day-to-day because I fucked up and spent money I didn't have, or didn't really care about what was going on in my household because I was spending every weekend with this person anyway. So I allowed myself to get too comfortable to the point where now I have to pick the pieces up. And it's been almost a month, but I definitely have gotten better. I'm no longer crashing out, drinking myself into a stupor, or self-medicating. I'm able to get through the day without bursting into tears. But this topic is one of the things that I think people need to really be more open with. If you are going to enter into a friendship or a situation or a possible romantic relationship with a person who has a mental health disorder, if they feel comfortable enough to come to you and say, this is what I have, this is what happens, this is how I deal, if you know for a fact you are not equipped to do that, leave the person alone. If you feel like you can't give some level of consistency to a person who is comfortable enough to tell you what they deal with every day, leave them alone. Because I can tell you from experience, I was able to get over a person not wanting to be my friend after hanging out once and only really talking to each other for maybe a couple of weeks. But this was 7.5 months of consistent communication, getting to know each other, really building something. So that type of hurt and being that's what hurts. And I would rather a person just tell me I can't deal with it. And that's okay. Not everyone is equipped to date a person with a mental health disorder. Not everyone is equipped to be friends with someone with a mental health disorder, especially if they are still actively in treatment and still trying to get a hold of their symptoms. It does not make you a bad person, a villain, or any of the above. You're a human being. And that's one of the things that I want this series to be. If you have a person in your life who you care about and you feel like you can't understand them fully because they suffer from things, or you're in a relationship with someone and you feel like they don't understand you, reach out. I would love to have guests on here. I would love to have opposing views. I'd love to have active discussion. Because this right here, what I've been through the last 3.5 weeks of my life, it's felt like it's been a year. Like, I literally feel like the last 3.5 weeks, almost 4 weeks of my life has felt like it's been months. And going into the holiday season, I cannot and will not revert back to the behavior that I had last year. I am doing better. I'm not perfect, but I mean, who is? And as we close out tonight's episode, just a word to the wise. Don't judge a person who you haven't walked a mile in their shoes. And I know it sounds corny. Don't judge a person because you think you know who they are based off of social media. And lastly, just be honest with people and don't be afraid to have your own back. Because honestly, one of the reasons why I use Liz as my foregoing personality 9 times out of 10 is because that bitch doesn't take anybody's shit. And neither should you.